All right, so we do have what I think is a pretty major update here, and I think this is Trump's first action as it pertains to marijuana as the 47th president of the United States. This is Trump signs fentanyl criminalization bill that could also open up research on marijuana, psychedelics, and other Schedule 1 drugs. So the main purpose of this bill that was just signed by Donald Trump is to move all fentanyl analogs into Schedule 1 to basically up the penalties if you get caught with fentanyl or smuggling fentanyl, anything that's related to illegal fentanyl. The penalties will be much harsher now based on this new bill. But this bill also has language in it that would make research on marijuana and other Schedule 1 drugs, drugs that are currently Schedule 1 in the United States. It would make research on these drugs much easier. It's very difficult to do research on marijuana, on other Schedule 1 drugs. There's just a very extensive process that researchers, labs have to go through in order to be able to do research. And most of them just say, to heck with that. I'm not going through all that red tape. I'm just not going to do research on it. So if this comes to fruition and actually we can get some research, this will be a very, very good thing. And I'll kind of explain why as we go along in this video. I've, as always, kind of highlighted the what I think are the important parts. Try not to get distracted. Over here, the silky ad to the right. This is President Donald Trump has signed a bill into law that would permanently ban analogs of fentanyl. So this will not apply to medical fentanyl, fentanyl that you get from a doctor at a hospital, things like this. This is basically smuggled into the country fentanyl. And again, of course, it is illegal already to smuggle any drug into the country. This is going to basically up the penalties, make the penalties much harsher. And all analogs of fentanyl now will be put as a Schedule 1 substance. Though it also contains provisions that would remove barriers to conducting research into the risks and benefits of marijuana, psychedelics, and other Schedule 1 drugs. And this is really huge and probably a lot bigger than what a lot of people think. Research is what we need to actually determine where different drugs should be placed. Should they be Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, descheduled altogether? This is all dependent on the research and the long-term effects and how it affects society and a person's health, an individual's person's health. So while this is not letting people use marijuana more or loosening the laws on marijuana use, it's loosening the laws on being able to just gather information. And this affects me personally, especially with this channel, very much as well. So I have a very difficult time finding research on marijuana when trying to make marijuana related videos, depending on regardless of what type of video it is, if it's how long marijuana stays in your system, how long it takes to detox, whatever. I need research to back up the claims that I make, and I have to really, really dig for it. And it's very rare that I can find multiple studies that are studying the same thing and then can come to some agreement. Most of the studies are very small, like they're just not very good studies. So if we can get some really good, solid evidence on, I'm open to any drug, psychedelics, and they're naming all other Schedule 1 drugs, but marijuana specifically. I mean, the rescheduling process, that is pretty much going to be dead in the water. Trump is not going to give Biden that win. There's going to be a new DEA administrator. The HHS is not going to take a stance. They've already made the statement that they're not taking a stance. It's basically still up to the DEA, but Trump's not going to give Biden that win to be the one who legalizes or moves marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. But he is making his own stance here. And the first step is, let's figure out where marijuana should actually be scheduled, or should it be scheduled at all? Should it be descheduled? And the research will show us that. And that brings me up to a real quick point, and that's we all have to define, what does legalization mean? So does legalization mean that it's completely descheduled? You can get it just like you can just go to the grocery store and buy it? Or does it mean it's regulated like alcohol and tobacco? Or does it mean that anything outside of Schedule 1 is legal? And I get in the comments section of a lot of my videos remarks on, even when I did a bunch of moving to Schedule 3 videos, that's moving to Schedule 3 is not legalization. It's got to be completely descheduled. So it's all basically up to interpretation of what does legal mean to you. My definition is, if it is anything other than a Schedule 1 substance, it's technically legal. Even though you'll need a prescription to get it, it is still a legal substance. It's not easy to get, certainly. Not like you can just go in and buy it like you can in a lot of states, but that's what legal means to me. So when I make statements in a lot of my videos that I think it will be legal, I mean it's not going to be Schedule 1 for that much longer. And I think this is a big step. If not, why study it at all? If we're not thinking about moving it out of Schedule 1, why study these substances at all? All right, let's move on here. Again, I've highlighted what I feel are the most important parts, but again, this is from marijuanamoment.net if you want to check it out. While the focus of the president's speech was on fentanyl criminalization, other components of the newly enacted law would smooth the process of research into Schedule 1 drugs like marijuana. What we did in this bill, and I think something that everybody on the floor can be proud of, is we put into the bill the capability to do research, extensive research by our research universities, NIH and the FDA. So the NIH and FDA can do extensive now research on basically any Schedule 1 drug. This bill has the component parts to make that possible, unlike our Schedule 1 on marijuana, which never allowed research, or realistic research is what he's saying. There's research, but it's spotty at best. Having some great research is really going to open up our knowledge on, again, what we should actually do with any of these Schedule 1 substances, but it'll also make it less arbitrary. Like they just, under the Biden rescheduling process, HHS just decided it should be Schedule 3. Like, why? I mean, there wasn't much to that. It was just kind of arbitrary. Let's move it to Schedule 3. So we need to know why, and created some of the dilemmas that we have today with the substance. So it being Schedule 1 means that research is nearly impossible, or good research is nearly impossible. Maybe there'll be some good research. Now, research takes a while to do. It's going to be probably at least months, if not years, before some real good, solid research comes out, but this is a step. All right, a little bit more here. Under the legislation, a research applicant who is actively registered with the DEA to study Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 drugs would need to have their request addressed within 30 days. So it's speeding up the process, and a non-registered applicant would have their submission considered within 45 days. So it's speeding up the process of getting their application addressed. The measure also states that research that's being conducted or funded by federal agencies like the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services would qualify for expedited processing. So again, speeding up the process. And marijuana also has an exception here. So they're actually making it even easier to do research on marijuana. However, while it would also provide for the limited manufacturing of controlled substances, so there's still going to be a limit on the manufacturing of the controlled substances to do the research, there's a specific exemption for cannabis with respect to the manufacturing process. So what I think is going on here is this current administration is trying to gather information and have information before making a decision. So maybe we gather up a bunch of information and can actually prove that marijuana either is dangerous and should stay a Schedule 1 drug, or it has a lot more medical applications to it, so it can be moved but still schedules like Schedule 2, Schedule 3, whatever, or it's safer to use than what we currently think and can be descheduled. We can make a decision based on the research. So again, I thought this was an important video to make because I feel like I think it's Trump's first step as the new president, his first actual action on marijuana legislation of any kind. He's done a lot of talking about it. I've done a lot of videos on that, but again, action speaks louder. So I hope this was helpful, informative. Check in the description box below if you have an upcoming drug test or concerned about testing positive for marijuana. We've got a few links down there that may be able to help. Stay subscribed here. I'll be back with more updates. And until next time, everybody, stay safe.